criminal. She has misrepresented the status of 30,000 emails, and she needs to go to prison. And if I become president, folks, remember, there's a 5-year statute of limitation on these crimes. In essence, saying he will prosecute her and he will send her to jail. I'm sorry, I don't see Chris Christie or Marco Rubio.
Yeah, no. He's delivering on everything he said he would do so far. He's not just taking the gloves off. He's put brass knuckles on because he said Hillary is punching him. He's going to punch back, as you said, twice as hard. Stone's rules over there. We're going to go to break here in a moment, but coming up in part 2, on part 2 during the Sunday broadcast, 4 to 6 p.m. Central, we are going to get into the really big issue, and I'm concerned about this too. Are libs infiltrating the campaign? We know about Trump's daughter, hanging out with Chelsea. We know about the son-in-law with the Democrat connections, though I see him doing a lot of good work out there and saying a lot of great things. You've told me you're going to really give us absolutely the truth. And I got to say, Roger, I'm impressed knowing you a year. I've known you years, but really known you good for a year. Everything you've ever said has turned out to be dead on accurate. It's really amazing show. You're going to tell us the inside scoop.
I am indeed.
All right, StoneZone.com, Infowars.com, of course, is our site. We've only got about 30 seconds till we go to break. Just getting back to this whole college deal. You go sign up for real estate school. It's the average price I've seen for good schools out there. It's what you take away from it. Of course, there's going to be a few sour grapes. 98% approval rating in this compared to the Clintons getting $150 million and doing nothing with it and stealing it. And this is their MO. It's incredible, Roger.
Not to mention the enormous debt that they've saddled individual working class people with. This was a boiler room. It was a scam. In other words, you would have these telephone boiler rooms hawking people to sign up to get a degree and put themselves into deep debt. By the way, there were no academic requirements. We've
got to go to break. Look, anti-Trump people wave Mexican flags, beat up women, and then on the news, they blame Trump. Just like Trump had a good course, they say he's bad, the Clintons are robbing everyone. I'm Alex Jones. Stay with us, Infowars.com. Roger. Sunday broadcast. We have Roger Stone, the consummate Trump insider, wingman, joining us, former head of the campaign. In yesterday's installment of this 3-part series, this is the second that you're watching right now and listening to on the radio across the country and the world, we got into the fact that this federal judge appointed by Obama, Gonzalo Curiel, is literally a Hispanic La Raza Grand Dragon. You know I hate the Klan. I hate ignorant, gang-based, race-based groups. This guy heads up a whole fund with a lawyers group that gets illegal alien scholarships in the United States. But I don't even have a problem with that. It's that La Raza and Mecha are so incredibly racist, are race-based, and have this whole cosmology that's funded by big mega banks to divide and conquer this country and to try to turn Hispanics into a bunch of racist, anti-free market globalists. I mean, this is really, really dangerous, but it's part of the larger program. We broke down how the fact that Trump University, with 98% approval rating of the students, is a totally fake scandal, and just on every front, Trump has been proven right. But now we're going to get to something I'm really concerned about. Look, I know Trump's his own man. He lives in New York. A lot of Democrats there. One of his daughters is friends with Chelsea Fine. Most people are liberal in New York. If you're going to have friends, they're going to be liberal, like 90%, I'd say, in Manhattan, or maybe 80%. But Roger, what's going on with the son-in-law? I see him doing really good things, really fighting hard, and I guess there's some type of weird leftist angle propaganda that they're actually putting out, that because Democrats in the family of the Trumps are working with Trump, that somehow he's a shill. But that doesn't make sense when you realize that it's a family issue. Correct me if I'm wrong, and the Democrats are panicking over Trump. Because if he was really a Republican Trojan horse, they'd be supporting him. Am I wrong? Am I right? You said you'd give us the real scoop. I know you will. I know you're not supposed to get into inside baseball with what you know about the family, but folks want to know. Please tell us.
Sure. I've got to speak up for both Ivanka Trump and her husband, Jared Kushner. I think that Ivanka Trump is the greatest single asset the Trump campaign has. We already know that they're going to try to depict Donald Trump as a misogynist, as somehow anti-woman. There is no better nor more effective spokeswoman to refute that than Ivanka Trump. She knows the opportunity her father has given women within the Trump organization. She's gracious, she's articulate, she's attractive, she's chic, she's a mother, she runs a business, she's the perfect balance, and I think the single most effective.
She's a goddess.
And the fact that she's cordial with Chelsea Clinton is immaterial, in my opinion. Jared Kushner, who does come from a prominent Democratic family in New Jersey, has proved to be one of the most effective campaigners for, I think, operatives for the Trump campaign. He is, for a guy who has not been in politics his entire life, but who's been on the periphery of it because of his family's involvement, he's skilled, he's effective, he has excellent judgment. He has both, like his wife and every other member of the Trump family, because they are troopers, Eric, Donald Jr., Donald's nieces and nephews, their first allegiance is to Donald J. Trump and the Trump family. In some cases, they may have to sublimate their own personal politics, but there is nobody more effective, I think, within the Trump structure than Jared Kushner.
Well, I mean, it's common sense. Blood is thicker than politics, but let's go further. Proof is in the results, the pudding. Judge a tree by its fruits. He's been doing a great job. That's all I care about.
Yeah, so this whole issue is a phony issue. I think it is being raised by some. Believe me.
It's the Democrats I've seen pushing it.
Yes, there's no question. But look, Ivanka Trump and her husband, Jared Kushner, are among the two most effective assets of the campaign. She's a great spokeswoman, and he's turned out to be a very skilled operative. Doesn't
the left also hate it because they want to say Trump's anti-Israel, anti-Jewish? I mean, this just really pisses them off because it doesn't fit into their whole narrative. You know, just like one of his sons married to an Asian lady. They just don't like it.
Well, what they really hate is the fact that Donald has 3 Jewish, grandchildren. So who else could be a more forthright advocate for the people of Israel and the Jewish people? No, I think it drives the left crazy. But the attacks on Jared Kushner or on Ivanka are meritless. They are as dedicated to the election of Donald Trump than anyone in the country.
Well, if you're married into a family and you're not supporting, your father-in-law, who's like this huge phenomenon, and it could be George Washington Part 2, what the hell? You have to have your head examined. And that's a no-brainer, that blood is thicker than politics.
But I know for a fact that there are folks out there trying to plant negative stories with the Associated Press on Jared Kushner. I can tell you from my own information, there is no one more effective, there is no one more dedicated to the election of Donald Trump than his son-in-law. He is turned out to be a very skilled.
Sure, they're attacking because it's a strong point. Operative. It's a strong card. They're attacking. It's a major spade. Now, major ace. What is Trump's ace in the hole, though?
In my opinion, his ace in the hole is the fact that he's fearless. That he's going to go after Hillary on the
calling her a crook, say arrest her,
on the big 3 issues. 1, her husband is a sexual predator in the Bill Cosby mold, and Hillary has been the person who has bullied, intimidated, and terrorized Bill's victims into silence. So she's not an advocate for women. She is an abuser of women. Number 2, her horrific record as Secretary of State. All we've done in the Middle East is to lose ground. All we have done under the Clinton-Obama foreign policy is to screw our friends and insert our enemies into positions of power across the region. That's not a mistake. That's not an accident. That's their policy. And as a part of that, of course, is Benghazi and the fact that she lied repeatedly about the deaths of 4 valiant Americans.
Well,
and lastly is the epic theft, the corruption of the largest money laundering scheme in U.S. criminal history. That would be the Clinton Foundation and the related Clinton Global Initiative.
But taking money from dictators illegally to sell out our sovereignty or missile seekers, the Chinese isn't important. A couple of people said Trump University didn't help him because they're lazy asses, in my view.
Well, look, we both know that Donald Trump has been a proponent for the release of the 28 pages of the congressional inquiry into the 9/11 attack. Now, Hillary Clinton just took $25 million into the Clinton Foundation from the Saudis. Does anybody in their right mind thinks if she's elected president,
$100 million from Gulf states,
we will ever learn the truth about 9/11?
Wow. Now, we got 3 minutes here before we go to break. This is just amazing. In part 3 that we're going to air Monday, we're going to get to the biggest issue here, in my view, the VP scoop. Now, look, I know personally you have not told me who you think is on Donald's short list. I know you said, well, I've been a little bit involved, obviously, looking at different angles because there's a big war room going on, but Trump decides. But from my sources that are separate from you and just common sense and asking people around the office and seeing the zeitgeist and comments on my website and others, there's a name coming up over and over again. And when I brought this up, you kind of gasped and said, look, I'm not getting into this because this didn't come from me. But let's just be honest about the whole thing. You're totally honest. That's why they call you the biggest dirty trickster in history and all this crap, because you don't do dirty tricks, in my view. I mean, you just engage,
I know one when I see one, though, I'll tell you that.
Well, this is a full contact sport.
No question.
So when they do stuff, you do it back. And when they punch, you punch back. So I don't know where I'm going here. We haven't scripted this. I just don't know. You won't tell me. But then when I said I can read body language, and I talked to some other folks, and they said, yeah. And then we saw what this certain senator has put out in the last week about how he would certainly consider it and be honored. So I just feel the zeitgeist. I've always had the zeitgeist. We're going to go to break and talk about this, but briefly. Infowars.com, prisonplanet.com, stonezone.com. In 60 seconds, what is another tidbit you should want folks to know?
Well, Alex, President Richard Nixon once said to me when looking for a vice presidential running mate, he said this at the time that just prior to George H.W. Bush choosing Dan Quayle, he said to me, look, don't look for someone who can help you. Look for someone who will not hurt you. Now, that's ironic in view of his bad choices of both Spiro Agnew and Henry Cabot Lodge, running mates who ended up, I think, either being of no value or not, or hurting him. That said, Trump is playing this very close to the vest. I don't know who he's going to choose for vice president. Corey Lewandowski doesn't know.
He keeps saying he does, though.
Paul Manafort doesn't know. You know what? Melania Trump doesn't know. The only person who knows is Donald Trump. And he will make this decision in his own sweet time. Now, he understands that's a giant news story. And that the place to say it, of course, will be at the convention to drive news coverage. I think he's got a personal short list. I think the short list includes people like Joni Ernst, the senator from Iowa.
Hold on. This is all going to be in part 3 that's going to air Monday. This is the Sunday transmission. Stay with us. Roger Stone and more. Infowars.com.
Welcome to the Alex Jones Show on this Sunday, June 5th, 2016. I'm David Knight, live here in Austin. I'm going to be your host for the rest of this hour. And, of course, you just heard Alex Jones talking to Roger Stone about the Trump University issues and the fact that the media is not paying any attention to the situation, exactly a parallel situation with Hillary Clinton. And we've seen this before. We saw this with the charitable donations coming after Donald Trump for the veterans donations, and he held a press conference and said, here are all the people that we have vetted. I paid to vet this. I gave 100% of the money. I didn't take anything for overhead. I even paid to vet the people. And yet what they do is they focus on him having a confrontation with one of the journalists who still wants to challenge him on that issue. We got a lot to talk about this hour, and I'm going to talk about, I've got a couple of articles and a couple of updates about this back and forth regarding this judge who is a member of La Raza. Of course, the Washington Post says, no. That La Raza group has absolutely nothing to do with the other national La Raza group. And it's like, yeah, okay. I'm going to read to you when we come back. I'm going to read to you what Cesar Chavez said about La Raza. He didn't care for La Raza himself. And also we've got, even though we've got Newt Gingrich coming out and criticizing Donald Trump for bringing up the issue that he believes that this judge is biased against him. Former U.S. Attorney General Alberto Gonzales says, no, he's got a legitimate concern here. And so we're going to talk about what he has to say. We're going to talk about what Cesar Chavez, the union organizer, said. So we got people who are both Republicans, people who have in the past have been union organizers talking about La Raza. It's been around for a while. We're also going to talk about what's going on in Switzerland. You know, the Swiss just rejected Bernieonomics, otherwise known as socialism. And, of course, that's what Hillary Clinton is running on as well. They just rejected a plan, and part of that was to guarantee $31,000 income to everybody in the country. Of course, that works out to about $16 an hour. The rationale for this was the idea that robots are going to be taking everybody's jobs. So how are we going to earn a living if the government doesn't provide us with money? We're going to talk. That's a lot happening in Switzerland. Of course, they had this bizarre demonic opening ceremony for the deepest, longest tunnel in the world that just opened up for a Swiss railroad there. And we're going to